banned people in Israel, Andhra Pradesh state and also Telangana state. You know, I am the president of Revolutionary Democratic Front, and Saibaba is the joint secretary of the Revolutionary Democratic Front, and the Revolutionary Democratic Front is banned. The Andhra Pradesh government has banned it in 2013 after killing Ganti Prasadam, our vice president, and Telangana government also continues that ban. It is challenged in High Court 3 years back, but High Court has not taken it up. Just now I was discussing about the senior advocate Satyam Reddy also about that. Otherwise also both of us are the members of the Revolutionary Writers Association. And our association was with Srujana, a magazine which my wife Hemalata used to run as a publisher from 1966 onwards, and as a reader of Srujana from Amalapuram, he has come into the radical politics in his early days, and when Kolli Satyanarayana, editor of X-Ray, introduced him the magazine Srujana, and from his college days itself he is attracted to the radical politics and later joined Radical Students Union. But we directly met only after he joined the Hyderabad Central University here. I was here. I was also banned from Warangal city also. So I was not expected to go to Warangal city in 1990 after my release from jail. So then I started living in Hyderabad, and Saibaba came to me, introducing himself. And one more interesting thing for both of us is, of course, Srujana, radical politics and all that. Gugiwa Thiong'o is one common point in between us. You must have heard about Gugiwa Thiong'o, a Kenyan writer, very committed anti-imperialist that way. You must have read all his books, Pets of Blood, Devil on the Cross, and all those books. I did not tell you. And both of us are very interested in him. After Sri, both of us are admirers of Gogi only. And I translated his books, and now Saibaba also in his jail life, he translated Gogi's autobiography's first part. That is the dreams during wartime. And in his boyhood, he describes in this first part. His second part also has come, and Saibaba in his jail translated it. And there is an interesting comparison between both of them. Telugulo మాట్లాడారా?
No, English is good.
So, of course, somehow I first started in English itself, which I am not used to speak in Hyderabad, in fact.
आपको तो उर्दू भी आती है, वो भी बोल सकते हैं।
वो भी बोल सकते हैं। तो क्या हुआ कि केनिया में एक माओ मूवमेंट था, जैसा तेलंगाना आर्म स्ट्रगल है बिटवीन 46 and 51। माओ मूवमेंट 1952 to 62 तक था, रेवोल्यूशनरी मूवमेंट। द peasants of Kenya, in the name of Mau movement, and there are great, you must have read Matagari, a novel which describes about that movement also, and he was inspired by that. His brother was there in that Mau movement, as Saibaba's sister Bhavani was there in the revolutionary movement. And then when I started making comparison between these two people, I find very interesting comparisons for that matter. Gugi's brother, if you go through this book in English, must have said one was in the Mau movement, and Saibaba's sister was in the People's War movement. She was in the party and also wife of the Hyderabad city party's Suresh's wife. He was People's War secretary in Hyderabad city, who was killed in a fake encounter in Merak district, Narsapur. Brother went there, and he put his shirt on his naked body when he has collected his body. So there are many stories about that. Of course, I should not come in between Saibaba and yourself. So interestingly, only one difference, because Saibaba is younger, he cannot be fascinated by Jawaharlal Nehru as I was fascinated. And Kenya, Gugi also was very much fascinated by Kenyatta, who was the the leader of the national movement in Kenya, but later turned to be, to better comparison, like Jawaharlal Nehru, a traitor. And Jawaharlal Nehru, you know, he is responsible for Telangana, the whole army action in Telangana, Hyderabad state. Of course, people blame only Patel, but Nehru was clever enough, a American bureaucrat, to kill 4,000 people and 2 lakh Muslims in the name of Razakars also. Indian Union military has killed. So in fact, I wrote a poem on Nehru, and of course Googie wanted to write the biography of Kenyatta. And this same Kenyatta and his followers put Googie in jail. And in Kenya, in high security jail, Googie spent only 1 year, but whereas Saibaba spent first 14 months, a small 6 months recess given by the Chief Justice of Bombay High Court, and then again, with very vengeance, the Nagpur Division Bench has sent him again to the jail on December 25th. First it was 9th May 2013, and again in 2015, December 25th, he was sent to jail, and on April 7th he has come out. Altogether, except this 6 months recess, the two, he was conditioned to stay in Delhi only for his treatment, medical treatment, and on April 7th he has come out. And as Googie, he was also in high security jail, Anda cell. What is the Anda cell and what are his ordeals in the jail, he will narrate, of course. But those who have read Arun Pereira's book, The Colors of Cage, will come to know what is Anda cell. What is Anda cell in Nagpur high security central jail. You can understand that, and of course Saibaba will narrate those ordeals. Very torturous in fact, and you know he is 90%. This is one bad precedent. This is one thing. Because all the international laws say that a physically handicapped person, physically challenged person with 90% disability should not be arrested. Whatever may be the case on him, whatever may be the criminal cases against him, one should not be arrested is the jurisprudence. That is the international law. You must have read Kalpana Kannabhiran's article much earlier when he was arrested. In fact, she has sent as an article as a petition also Supreme Court, but Supreme Court did not take it till now. This is a bad precedent. And another bad precedent only recently, when Telangana Democratic Forum, this meeting was to be held against the Green Hunt operation, the war on the people, the third phase in the Nakaranya. Both of us were speakers there, in fact. And the court says, the High Court says, that both of them should not speak there. Who is to speak in a meeting, who should not be speak in a meeting? Now the court decides. Police deciding is one thing. Kalaji Narayan Rao was sent out from Warangal city when he was 16 years old. He was exiled. By the government, one can understand that. But if court says that one should speak and one should not speak, it gives a list of 5 speakers that they can speak. And it bans other people, particularly myself and Saibaba were banned not to speak in that meeting. This bad precedent, particularly from judiciary, and I need not say today's, I'm sorry to say, media and judiciary. Judiciary, the third part of the democracy, and media, the fourth pillar of the democracy, how today have become so much corrupt and so much bankrupt with ideas that I think that is the beginning of fascism. And this is because of the corporatization. The whole media is today, particularly, thank to God, that regional languages are not media is not maintained by the corporate sector, but where English, if you see, the whole English media, particularly Times of India, not always maintained by a corporate sector. The whole English media is done by corporate sector, and the government is the agent of the corporate sector today. I need not say that all the political parties, whatever may be the name, the Congress, BJP, TDP, TRS, whatever may be the name, all the political parties are just compradors of, just agents of the either of the companies. Either Adani or Ambani or Tata, SR, Vedanta. I need not say about Vedanta. Most notorious company, you must be seeing that about Jaipur Literary Festival. What notorious role this Vedanta is playing, sponsoring the Jaipur Literary Festival, not only in Jaipur but also in London, where the Adivasi, Dalit, Muslim, Bahujan writers are boycotting the Jaipur, and Sachidanandan also, on the request of the Dalits and Adivasis, has refused to go as a speaker to that meeting. You must have heard about that. So that is the role of the companies today, that is the role of corporate sector today, worldwide. You know Vedanta has its own interest in Zambia, Australia, Goa, Chhattisgarh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Rajasthan, Telangana, whatever the state you mention, the whole state's governments are being run by the companies like Vedanta, SR and such other companies. Nothing else. The simple language is today's, the media is controlled by these companies, even I think the judiciary also. The high-level judges are being given training by the World Bank how to serve the corporate sector in such a bad condition. And you know, right from the East India Company days, the feudal Brahminical philosophy is serving as the superstructure to this imperialist forces. And today it has come to power also. It has started from at the time of the Babri Masjid demolition. Now it has surfaced. It was tip of iceberg then, but today it has surfaced in the name of Modi, who is responsible for killing 3,000 Muslims in Gujarat. Now he has become Prime Minister. Achhe din aayega, make in India. And you see what is happening. He is serving as a comprador to the companies with ideological support to it at the superstructure level, the Hindutva, the killing of the people, the writers, akhlaq, all that. I need not go into those details. In this situation, this is nothing but, you may not be comparing it with the classical fascism of Germany and Italy days, but it is certainly a fascist state with the Hindutva serving, the Brahminical Hindutva serving the imperialism. In such a situation, Saibaba faced all the ordeals in jail, and he has come to speak to you. He will interact with you with this small introduction. Thank you very much. Autobiography, J.N. Saibaba has translated in Malupu publisher. Last time he spoke here. When Satnam died, of course, he has committed suicide. And his book Jungle Lama, most popular book, was published by the Malupu publishers. Of course, they also have published Walking with Comrades by Arundhati Rai, both English and Telugu. And now we are publishing this book. Shortly it will come out. And Saibaba has translated the book. Besides many other writings, he has translated this book in jail.
It's a great occasion for me to be here in Hyderabad and among the people who supported me all the last 2 years. It's a great moment for me. 3 days ago when I came here, first time after 2 years, after 4 years in fact, and 2 years of almost 2 years of jail life, there is a sense that I experienced through that in my own land I am an outsider. Particularly, this feeling as kind of prevailing in my mind when I went to Warangal with a great expectation to be part of the people in the rally against the Operation Green Hand. What depressed me was the order of the High Court banning a few people not to speak there. And this is the first time also to see, particularly to ban certain voices by High Court. And in fact, this has been working on my mind very heavily. One of the reasons also why I wanted to come to Warangal was that I could meet a number of friends and comrades, and also I wanted to hear Vivi there. Since my college days, university days, it was kind of like I habituated, like I always wanted to hear Vivi speaking. And I was expecting that I would have an opportunity, more than anything, like I wanted to speak against Operation Greenland in Warangal. I wanted to listen to him. I went there. I was not very unhappy that I was not allowed to speak. It was fine for me because I got habituated with this this thing that my voice is being strangled for 2 years. I was not very much so expecting that I wanted to speak, but I wanted to listen to him. But to my surprise, when the order came that he should not speak from the dais. A person comes from the same place and he's the person who is, whose voice for more than half a century is heard by the people, and it is like, it was a kind of, emotionally I was upset. How could a person who is speaking for more than half a century should not be allowed to speak? And then you can see that when I was arrested, 9th May 2014, the police who arrested me by kidnapping me, they said that we are arresting you because we don't want you to speak. We want you to shut your mouth. That's why we are arresting you. This was the officer who arrested me told me the first words are this, that you should not speak. We want you to shut your mouth. That's why we are arresting. And then exactly after 1 year, I come here, 2 years, I come here, and I could not digest this. Professor Arugopal, in Warangal meeting 2 days ago, he started with saying that, how do I understand this? A person whom I wanted to listen all the time since 70s, that's what Professor Arugopal was saying, was not allowed to speak, and I was allowed to speak. Like Professor Arugopal was allowed to speak, but Varvara was not allowed to speak. What was this? And he said that, is it an insult to me, or that by giving a chance to me to speak, is the High Court or the state government is insulting me? That you can speak, but nobody will care about if you speak. But if Varvara speaks, we are very serious about it. And it is, last 2 days, it's heavily working on my mind. That how is it that is possible that all the crime that is the act, me or is that if you speak, there is a crime. Speaking is a crime now. You cannot speak. And I was told clearly that we are arresting you because you are speaking against certain things which are uncomfortable for the government of India. So, to start with, what has been happening to me, and even in fact thousands of people who were in prisons, was the same thing. The basic thing is that the political prisoners are being arrested precisely for the reason that they are speaking. The only crime that the political prisoners are doing is they are speaking. You should not speak. That is the kind of a thing. It was not about only me. I understood while being in the under cell, I was reflecting, and what was the crime? And people who were speaking vocally against the atrocities on the people, and Adivasis, Dalits, they were the people who were, you could see that just before me, who were released from the same under cell where I was kept. I just stepped in and a few people came out. One among them was a Dalit speaker, singer. And he was precisely arrested and kept 5 years in the same under cell. Sudhir Dhawale, who was a singer and a speaker. And he just came out and I just entered into the same cell he was kept before. He was a singer and he was a speaker. He was arrested and kept for 5 years. And before that, you could see that for 2 years, Dr. Vinayak Sen was arrested. What was his crime? He was speaking against Salwa Zulu. He went around the country with a report, with a large fact-finding team. He went inside Bastar and he brought out all the atrocities, recorded and documented atrocities in the name of Salwa Zulu. And with that report, he went around the country and spoke against Salwa Zulu. And he was arrested and kept in jail for 2 years. And Salwa Zulu atrocities were replaced by Operation Green Hand. And in his place, I started collecting all the data and went around. And then after that, I was arrested the same night. It was the act of speaking became a criminal act in this country. Coming back to my jail experiences, I had a great opportunity also. I mean, it was not all the sad story and the torturous life that I experienced through. I had a great opportunity to meet about 70 Adivasi boys from Chhattisgarh and Maharashtra, interior places. That was the greatest moment I had enjoyed and learned from them. Incidentally, the Adivasi boys who were arrested much before me and languishing in under cell, and some of them who were recognized as notorious Naxalites were kept in the under cell. 7 of them were selected out of 70. And I was taken on the 10th night, in the middle of the night, I was taken to that prison. From Aheri, I was taken there after being produced before the magistrate. And I was alone. I was taken directly the next morning to the under cell. And I was kept alone. Under cell is a small cell built particularly by Rajiv Gandhi for the purpose of keeping terrorists from Punjab, away from Punjab. They wanted to keep in a enclosed prison cell. So they built it in the early 90s for the so-called Punjab militants. And the moment I was taken, the undercell itself was divided into 4 sections. One section was vacated and I was kept alone on that section so that I could not even see a human face except the guards. The other side of the section I was kept, there was a high wall, and after the wall the other section was there. These Adivasi boys were there. Somehow the Adivasi boys came to know that a person called Saibaba with 90% disability was lodged on the other side. So they started shouting my name, saying in Hindi. Actually these Adivasi boys didn't know Hindi or any other language other than Gondi. But after coming to jail, they learned a bit of Hindi. And they shouted, Saibaba, हम इधर हैं, आपके लिए हम इधर हैं. आप डरो मत, आप अकेले नहीं हैं. The voice was feebly coming from the high walls from the other side. I didn't know what to do. I was in my wheelchair. In the small cell, they left me in the wheelchair there and locked it again. You see, like to enter inside the under cell, one has to cross 7 huge iron gates. After that iron gates also, the small cell has its own the iron bars, and then there is a gate again there. They locked that gate as well. And so you could see that I could not even come out of the wheelchair, and then I had to, if I wanted to lie down, I have to get onto the floor. I can't get onto the floor, you know. And if I get onto the floor, I can't come back onto my wheelchair on my own unless two people help me to. The only thing that was coming was, which I didn't know, that these Adivasi boys were shouting from the other side. For 3 days I didn't know that who was shouting to give me help. 3 days I was there without food, without water, without going to the toilet. In the under cell, in the small cell, I was like that. And third day, very interestingly, the Adivasi boys climbed the wall, jumped over the other side. I didn't know about them. They never saw me. But after coming to the jail, some of them spent 5 years, 3 years already by then. Through newspapers, they came to know and about me. And they knew through newspapers and some magazines, which the language which they learned there itself in a few years, Hindi, they learned that I was fighting against Operation Green Hand, and I was, for the same reason I was kept there. And these boys were not politically organized people or part of any member of any organization, but you could see the level of consciousness of those people. Though the simple villagers, all of them were in early 20s, they were the farmers, or the sons of the farmers who cultivate. But the level of, like a few years, they learned the language, they learned the politics in jail. But the level of consciousness was very high by the time they were sent to the jail. So because they are coming from the land where political consciousness was very high, higher than all of us, I could experience the next 2 years with spending with them. In the cities, the universities, we spend debating every day, but the level of consciousness, I wondered. And they shouted. And the third day, they jumped over the wall. So a few hours, everybody in the under cell will be just left out from their cells. The moment, till third day they waited. On the third day in the morning, when the cell lockup was open, straight away they jumped the wall, high wall. The high wall was nothing for them. In fact, they were saying that we can cross anything, any tree, any hill. What is this high wall? And they jumped. Immediately, superintendent and all officials rushed to that some prisoners have jumped the wall of one section of the under cell and crossed over to the other section. It was like a very highly dramatic, with some 20 guards and all officers came with lathis. Then these 3 Adivasi boys who jumped out of 7, they stood their ground and said that either you shift us to help this man. For 3 days he did not eat, he did not drink a drop of water. We know through the gods that he is going to die. We will be here with him, or you shift him to our section of the, otherwise we will not move from here. From 6 o'clock morning to afternoon 2 o'clock, the fight went on. They refused to move from there. I was locked. My lockup was not open. They were sitting and standing before my cell, and they resisted this, that we will not leave this way. Then they opened the lock and they allowed these 3 boys to come inside, and then they carried me in their own hands and helped me to go to the toilet. This was the first 3 days that what happened. And then they brought the food. They gave me a bath. After that, first time I ate from their hands. Then the evening, 6 o'clock, they fought. And they brought me from the cell outside. There is a small corridor, just only a corridor. And then from the lockup to the corridor they brought me, and they refused, and they said that he will not be locked up. If you are going to lock him up, they will not be locked up, and we will not get there. That was the kind of fight they gave. By evening, they said that one of you can stay with him this for tonight. Then they bargained for two. To carry him in our hands, we need two people. Then they allowed two people to stay with me for that night, third day night. And then, before they locked up at 6 o'clock, these three boys just almost ran out of the undercell, which is completely closed undercell. It's a cement concrete one. There's only one door where the heavy guards were there. So in a flash of a second, they ran out of it, and they brought a cot. It's a dilapidated cot without any it is a broken cot. But somehow, how they found that, we don't know. They must have seen it somewhere outside lying. It's a thrown out cot, and they brought it inside. In front of all officers. They could not, it was a surprise shock for them what these people were doing. And then in a flash of second, they brought it and then put it there, and then they asked me to lie down on that. That's how my life in undercell started. For the next two years, except for the 6 months I was outside, these boys were with me. I was many times isolated from these boys, but there was a fight. Always the fight went on, and they refused to go back. I'll come to the story of this, how these Adivasi boys fought for me. The first day when I entered the jail, at the entrance inside, there was a photo of Gandhi, and there was a quotation. That quotation was saying that the prisoners should accept themselves as sinners. And then it was like a Christian concept, but it's come through Gandhi. The sinners would repent, and then through repentance they will come out of the prison gates. This was the quotation that was there in Nagpur Central Jail the moment you enter there. And after you enter and started living there, you will surprised to see the sinners, the Gandhi's sinners. 85% of the people in Nagpur Central Prison were Dalits, Adivasis and minorities, and some of the OBCs. These are the sinners. And 85% of them were arrested and kept for petty crimes. And petty crimes, most of those petty crimes were not even committed by them. Those were the sinners. And all those sinners, initially when I was taken inside at 2:30 in the night, I was kept in a place called, a barrack called Adan, the entry point of the prisoner's life. They asked me a question by 3:30 or so. They all got up about my name and what is the crime. I was hesitant to say what was my crime. How do these people understand what when I say that I am arrested as a notorious Naxalite? I was hesitating. But then one Muslim boy took out a newspaper and read it out about the news. That's I am going to be shifted to this place. Everything was already in the news. They knew everything. There was nothing for me to hide. In fact, or nothing to hesitate to speak it. And from 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock, I spent that time with them, speaking to them. And I realized that they were all Adivasis, and our Dalits are minorities. The over representation, like in our university, it was only 2000 the reservation started implementing in Delhi University. Never implemented reservations till 2000. And there was no representation, not even now there is not a single professor who comes from a Dalit or Adivasi community. The kind of representation that you can see in the university and in the prison, wow representation of these sections was there. I mean, as it is, there are people, 80% of these people are there, but 85% of them are. But even if you take that 15% that who I'm saying that the others, who were, some of them were really could be criminals, they were also poor people. But from the next day onwards, every guard in the jail, every jailer, and every the prisoner who is the prison jobs, they were all told that they should never meet me, never try to speak with me, because I was a notorious terrorist. Everybody was told by the morning. They were trained not to see and all that. Then the curiosity increased. There were 2,500 prisoners, and everybody wants to see me. Everybody wants to talk to me now by evening the next day. So, I mean, it became like unrest in the prison. Everybody wants to see. And then my photograph was flashed on the TV screens for the next few weeks, all the time. And everybody wants to speak. And then nobody can enter, and neither could I go out of the under cell. So now everybody, the next day by evening, I started getting letters, secret letters from various barracks. We wanted to see. The letters are entering through number of people. I mean, some jailers themselves are bringing secretly. And then guards were bringing this watchmen, and then this all kinds of people who come to clean the toilets, to those people who bring the food. Everybody is coming and carrying a letter, secret letter, that particular person wanted to see and talk to. So, I mean, it was very difficult for me, but at the same time it was very exciting also, the life there. Then you could see that before coming to the prison, in fact, there was something happened which I could not believe with me. You know that I was kidnapped virtually, I mean, on the way I was stopped and kidnapped and taken to the airport. And from the airport I was taken to Nagpur. And the moment I was brought out from the Nagpur airport, I could see columns and columns of heavy guarded special security forces called C60. From Nagpur airport to Aheri, the interior place in Gadchiroli, there are 2,000 security forces were arranged to take me from there. I mean, it was night. It started at around 8 o'clock. Nobody was there to see, even these forces. But there were hundreds of vehicles. And I was taken in one vehicle, and then there is a huge convoy of buses and different vehicles started moving. One of the entire roads were cordoned off. Perhaps even the so-called most notorious terrorist or even Bin Laden might not have been taken like this. I was there, and then the entire column of C60 forces were moving. I was told by different officers who were taking places in my car that there were 2,000 forces. By the time I reached Chandrapur, the armed vehicles, the military armed vehicles were also seen. And a little ahead, the anti-landmine vehicles were there in my convoy. there were 20 anti-landmine vehicles which were brought for exercises and movements of the these paramilitary forces in the interior areas of Gadchiroli district. They were all deployed on the road now, and they were saying that they were for my security. I could not understand what security could they give me. Then it was a cinematic scene. I don't know if there is a film director in this audience, and it would sound very exaggerated scenario for you if I just describe this. And it was moving, the entire column of the security forces were moving very slowly on the road, and then over my head the helicopters were moving. And the helicopters belonging to, very interestingly, Indian Air Force and Russia and Israel. These are the helicopters. I know, I'm not telling you on my own this thing. In 2 years I learned about these helicopters also. Helicopters, perhaps nobody knows, even the media has not written about. Helicopters from Russia and Israel are lying in Nagpur. They are in the part of the Operation Green Hunt. And every day in the morning, the last 2 years or 18 months, I was there, more than 18 months. Above the undercell also we could see the helicopters always moving and hovering above the undercell. It was not because they were not deployed on the undercell, but you know that the central command of the central India for coordinating the Operation Green Hand is in Nagpur. It is not in Raipur, it is Nagpur. Everything is coordinated from Nagpur. And highest number of helicopters are also kept there. And you can see that the entire column of these forces in the middle of that my car with two IPS officers sitting on both sides, moving towards Aheri. And then these anti-landmine vehicles, armed vehicles, and then above they moving, these helicopters moving. We reached by 3:30 to Aheri. That was the time when entire forces were deployed, and 5 district SPs were coordinating that entire operation of shifting Saibaba in his wheelchair from Nagpur to Aheri. Apart from DIG special operations, and in the same manner, after a day I was brought with the same forces moving again back to Nagpur on 10th night. 2:30 I was brought. 3 guards in front of the central prison, high security prison, was standing when I was my vehicle was approaching the the central prison. And the 3 guards are the people who they belong to the central prison with one weapon in their hand. And within flash of a seconds, one after the other vehicles were entering into the premises of the jail, and this jungle fatigue C-60 forces are getting out of their vehicles. Seeing that, the jail guards threw their the weapons and ran away from the main gate. They ran for their life. Perhaps they thought that the Naxalites or someone was attacking the jail or what. They could not see that. Well, the same guards, when they were deployed in Andasal, they were narrating what they felt and later on after months. So I was brought inside. By the time I was brought inside the prison, I am coming back again to the main gate all the time of the central prison. My wheelchair was broken. And my hand was broken already, left hand. They dragged me in Aheri with my left hand. Because, the constables, they did it. Very interestingly, there are two incidents. The people who dragged me with out of law, these constables in Aheri, they are Adivasi constables. Why I never made a complaint when my hand was broken is the reason is this. I never revealed it to anyone, but I have this opportunity to reveal it. These three constables were asked to shift me from vehicle in the Aheri police station, and I reached to the lockup. These boys did not understand. They, out of eagerness, they just took my hand and they dragged me out of the car and put me in the wheelchair. And there is no ramp or anything to take the wheelchair. There was uneven ground. It was very difficult to. There the wheelchair got broken, and then they were trying to lift me. In that process, my hand was overstretched, and the nerves got damaged. And then slowly, next 9 months, muscles got damaged. But these people never did this with any intention to harm me. Who is responsible for this? Can I say that these people, they loved me, they wanted to take care of me, they wanted to lift me. In that process, they did a mistake. So I never discussed this with anyone so far, but I wanted to share that with you. And then I was taken to the lockup. That night, these boys, the Adivasi boys who were the constables who were part of the C60, they were very worried about that, what happened to Saibaba's house. Their duty was over, but still they came back to see and worried, and they wanted to see what they could do and all that. I refused to take food because there was no toilet. The officers came with the food and they told me that you take the food. Yes, I will take the food, but you provide me with a toilet. No, I have to go to urinals, I have to go to for latrine. Without that, already 48 hours are over, how can I eat? They said, no, there is no facility of this. We can't. Then I refused to eat. But these Adivasi boys who dragged this, after the officers left, they used to bring mangoes, this and that, and they try to give tea, cigarette and all that. They are worried. Of course, I met them even after 2 years also when I was about to come out again. I will tell you about this Adivasi constable, the story a little bit later on. I will come back again. There is every moment there is moments of anxiety, excitement. There is a kind of interesting human relations within the custody, within the four walls, and within this highly repressive atmosphere as well. After I moved into the prison and all these incidents were happening, by that time I could see that the entire prison was infested with intelligence people. Intelligence officers from Hyderabad, of course Delhi, from Nagpur, Maharashtra, everywhere. They were there all the days and months and years that I was there, always. And they were given only duty that whatever I was doing, they should report. Particularly, there was a heavy pressure on the jail officers. At that time, interestingly, all the jail officers were Dalits or Adivasis. And they don't trust them. The state don't trust the Adivasis and Dalits who were jail officers at that time. So, somehow they feel that somewhere or the other they have a sympathetic feeling towards me. That's why they were actually not me more than me and me. The vigilance was there on the jail officers. After a few days, Vivek and others, Justice Khosle Party, they came to meet me in jail. And finally they allowed me to meet Vivi in jail, in the superintendent's office. That officer at that time was a Dalit. You could see that, and he was suspended, not because of that arrangement, but he felt that was also the reason. He was suspended later on, and he is still not reinstated. That the entire jail was a kind of a concentration camp, where only the sharp eyes of the intelligence people were always there observing what I was doing. But the struggle of the Adivasi boys went on. The demand was that Saibaba should be shifted to the wing of the under cell where all the Adivasi boys under the Naxalite category are placed. And they said that sending two people now and then to help him is not the answer. You shift him to the wing where we are living, so we can take turns and take care of him. That was the demand they did. And the jail officers was saying that we wanted to shift him, that from Mumbai we have orders that we should not shift. So it went on for 20 days next. And how was I living? Whenever the lockups were opened, these Adivasi boys, they jumped over the wall, high wall, come help me. To take my bath, give me food and all that. Then they go back. And then next time when it is open, then again they come and jump and come. And the guards also, when the officers were not there, the guards also ignore this. They don't know that these people are jumping the wall. Even in front of them it happens. Some guards, they ignore and say that no, we don't know anything about it. It went on for 20 days. The struggle was that at evening, every day evening 6 o'clock, the lockup is will be locked up. Everybody should be locked up. Out of 24 hours, even in the undercell after 7 gates inside, morning 6 to 10 o'clock, we were allowed to come out of the lockup in the prison. That is a small corridor only. Going out of the lockup means only the small corridor in front of your lockup. Even that is a great thing for us. Coming out of the lockup is like, you can feel like you have freedom. Every evening, again, 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock you are locked up, and 3 to 6 o'clock again you are out of the lockup. Those morning 6 hours, evening 3 hours, 9 hours but you cannot move from one wing to the other, or you can't talk. Only if the people are there in the same wing you can talk during those 9 hours. But 9 hours are not 9 hours, officially 9 hours. Most of the days it will turn out to be 2 hours or 3 hours, because there are many other rules also. That if there is a visiting officer from outside prison, that day lockup will not be open, even for those hours. Or if there is a festival day or a holiday, this will not be open, even those hours. That kind of restrictions were there. So for 20 days continuously, next 20 days, the struggle is that at evening 6 o'clock, all the Adivasi boys on the other wing, they say that we will not get locked up, they'll stand in the corridor. Unless you shift Saibaba to our wing, we will not get locked. But now for the jail officers, it's a big thing. 6 o'clock you have to show on the records that everybody is locked up. Otherwise it's a big crime against the officers. So it is every day all the officers with lathis, they used to come to use all their force, whatever that is possible, to push them into lockup and lock them up. But these Adivasi boys, they used to hold each other's hand, and they never used to allow these people to be forcefully locked up. And it goes on until 7 o'clock, and then you have crossed your limit. 6 o'clock lockup did not happen. That is a big thing. and you could not record the 6 o'clock clock. I was 20 days. After 20 days, they shifted me to the wing where I was, where the Adivasi boys, 7 Adivasi boys were there. Then the struggle started for the toilet, for making the wheelchair accessible. We want a wheelchair is broken. It took 4 months to get a wheelchair. That too, my wife has to bring it from Delhi. Till then, the wheelchair was not there. I was crawling, and other Adivasi boys have to carry me. And then this hand, which was the nerve system got disturbed. It was extreme pain, and then there was no medicine. It went on like that, and then the jail authorities wanted to shift me to the hospital, but from higher ups there was pressure that I should not be shifted to hospital. It went on like that. But meanwhile, with the pain and everything, we found different ways of communicating with general barracks, or 2,500 prisoners. Somewhere or the other, there are mechanisms developed by them or by me, by all the Adivasis, that you find ways out to communicate. And then after 2 months, the communications established. Then every issue that was happening outside the jail in the world, we used to also do some programs in jail. From Anda cell, there were programs. When a Dalit massacre happened, we observed hunger strike for a day. When some encounter killing happened, we did this. Or when the Bhagat Singh martyrdom day came, entire jail became a kind of a program. Without moving, out of Anda cell also, the program took place like that. With that kind of heavy repression also, because this was possible because overwhelming majority of the people in that jail, I suppose in every jail, is Dalit, Adivasi and minorities. And they have such creativity, they know how to live in hard conditions in their life itself, their lives. They can adjust to any kind of circumstances. Jail is nothing for them because they had seen worse conditions in their lives and they lived with those worst conditions. And then even within that 4 walls of jail, they know how to live. Not regretting their lives in jail and not crying all the time that they were unnecessarily and illegally they were kept under the custody without any crime. They know how to celebrate life, perhaps. And I learned from them. So I, communicating through them, I know that there is nothing in the jail hospital, not even a thermometer was there. But jail hospital is one point where we could meet. From different barracks, people also wanted, they will write letters, but particular time we will come to the hospital. 3 days before you have to write a letter to the superintendent, we wanted to go to the hospital, the jail hospital. They will write and plan it, and they asked me to write a letter to the superintendent for the same time and same day to come to the jail hospital, and then there is occasion to meet. And then you be in the queue to wait for the doctor to see, and during that time, all the queues, you communicate, talk, hug each other. That was that. That is the way in which you can. Very interestingly, another modern technology like video conferencing. Video conferencing is a modern technology. The government wants to use that for the rights of the prisoners. It turned out to be against the rights of the prisoners. What happens is that you are not produced in the court. You are produced to video conference in the court, and then you are not taken out of the prison. You can't see what the outside world. Within the 4 walls of the prison, you are confined completely, and attending a court date through video conference means a clerk will come on the video screen and says that the judge has given you this date, next date is this. That is the attending the court. neither you have any opportunity to talk to the judge, nor you have any possibility of knowing what is happening in your case, and you can't have a word with your lawyer. Nothing is known, only date will be given. And most of this days also, the date is also not given. They will say that the date will be given later on. That is the video conferencing. And then that is the great technology that is being used for the rights of the prisoners. That is being interpreted. And the Honorable Supreme Court accepted that and formulated some guidelines for attendance of prisoners through the court. So, when I went to the Nagpur prison, the major issue was the video conferencing. Every prisoner was complaining that we don't want to attend the court through video conference. Because they don't know anything what's happening in their case. The Supreme Court guidelines is that to avoid and to save money for the government, they should not be, escorts need not be given, vehicles need not be arranged. The great technology of video conference is there. They can attend the court through the video conference. Honorable Supreme Court has given the guideline. But Supreme Court guidelines has also said one thing. Once your trial starts, trial should happen in the open court and the prisoner should be presented in the open court. That is there in the guideline. But in Nagpur, that is not followed. Even your trial happens from within the four walls of the prison. And what is the trial doesn't happen in the video conference. The trial happens in the court. The video conference room is separate and you are told that the next date. But that still is interpreted as that the prisoner is presented in the court and the trial witness is produced and everything is happening in a transparent manner in the open court. We will not know. So first 18 months I was also not taken, except once, not taken to the court. I was asked to attend the court through video conference. The trial did not start. After 3 months, only once I was taken to Aheri Magistrate Court from the jail. Again, 2,000 forces and hundreds of officers, anti-landman vehicles, everything, scene is repeated. The only one time I was taken from jail to the court, to Aheri Magistrate Court, the entire cell. The only difference now is there are 10 vehicles of media people also. Because in the morning 10 o'clock I was taken out, on the morning 8 o'clock I was taken out. 10 vehicles of media people, that is embedded media people. The police media people in the hands of the police, embedded people, they were also there. And I was taken in a very ceremonious way from the court to the magistrate, and magistrate gave me my charge sheet and sent me back. So I objected to the magistrate that the charge sheet is in Marathi, I can't understand. And he said that no, I can't help. In Maharashtra we only can view in Marathi. Then I gave a letter, written letter. And then he said that, you appoint a translator for yourself. That I said, I am in prison, how can I appoint a translator for myself? He said, you learn Marathi in jail. So that is the magistrate. And the same magistrate, when first time I was presented, I spoke to him. My lawyer was not there, no one was there. I spoke to them that for already 50 hours by then, I could not go to the toilet, I was in the lockup, I could not eat anything, I was bleeding already from my ears. My BP was recorded by the doctor as 170 by 110. This is the medical condition, I was bleeding, you can see my bleeding from my nose and the ears. And he said, oh, this is very bad. I will write in the warrant to the prison that you will be taken care of. And then of course I also asked for 2 people should be there in the prison to help me, and I should need medical this thing. I need a cot or a table to lie down from a wheelchair, this all that. Oh, I have written everything. Now without any problem you can go. Everything will be arranged there. First you will be taken for medical care. Everything I have written now, you see. To my surprise, that magistrate had written nothing. When the police brought me to the first day to the jail with the warrant, there was not a single word. He lied, the magistrate, that he has written everything that I wanted, and he recorded everything and the health condition and all. Nothing was written. The same magistrate, in my case, 3 Adivasis were also arrested. And he recorded, without they being produced in the court, without asking them or talking to them, those people, Adivasi people, in my case, the magistrate recorded their court statement, confessing that they have confessed their crime. A long story. The story of what in our case there is a person, enigmatic person is given in our case, that the central point of the case is that there is a woman in the forest called Narmadaka, and Saibaba was communicating through some students and through some Adivasi boys with that woman Narmadaka. And then there is a long story given. Magistrate has given a story that these Adivasi boys narrated as a confession. That was filed in the court. So that was the sole evidence is that there is a woman called Naxalite leader woman called Narmadaka, and she gave all this. They gave established a channel through the hands of these 3 Adivasi boys to Delhi. It's a very fantastic story. Maybe people who read fantasies may also really get surprised to see that this is a greater fantasy than anything else, because in the narration of the charge sheet, you could see how Narmadaka looks like, what is her complexion, what is her beauty, everything comes through. You can see that Narmadaka has, what kind of voice she has. I also dreamt of Narmadaka all these 2 years in my anda cell, how she would look like, and then and if I happen to meet her, what can I speak to her, and what should it like? And these Adivasi boys, also 3 boys who were there in the prison, they were also wondering, because these Adivasi boys, according to the police story, it is not like Andhra Pradesh police stories of encounter, the same words, the same vocabulary and all that. This must have been scripted by some very gifted person, the story. It was a story of even describing the forest where these 3 Adivasi boys was met by this Narmadaka, and what instructions she gave. And first time in the jail, when I met these 3 Adivasi boys as my co-accused, when I read out the story after it was translated in English, sorry I'm taking such a long time, I will wrap up with a few things. They are also surprised. They were also very creative people, but they were also surprised. Like, we were all dreaming together a kind of a figure of Narmadaka all these 2 years. And the same magistrate, you can see that he wrote this the police story as it is. That's the same story is repeated in our charge sheet, which is 1,000 page long. So 4 or 5 times the story repeats, and the same story is coming out of the mouth of these Adivasi boys, which never came from Adivasi. They were boys, but the magistrate himself repeated the story. And when my lawyer finally, in the month of March, when he interrogated the magistrate forgot the story. And then, very interestingly, and the public prosecutor has to supply the story, the magistrate to repeat. And then, very creatively, our lawyer asked certain questions, whether they were produced. The people who were never produced in the court, they were given a confession before the magistrate in the court. That is the kind of case that you can see. If you can see all other parts of the story of this case, It's, I mean, it runs like a kind of Hollywood crime thriller. But without going that, I just wanted to few things. Maybe we can interact later on. I wanted to say, between the court, jail, and hospitals, the three institutions of the state, 9 months they took to the prison to build a Western style toilet in my small cell. But it started after 3 months. The construction started after 3 months. Even before the construction started, every time the bail application was was filed, they lied, saying that there was a Western style toilet already constructed in his prison cell, and then a wheelchair is provided. Latest modern medical facilities are given to him. Everything is lied. From the lower court to the Supreme Court, everything is lied. And so blatant the lies were that then the Western style toilet built after 9 months never worked also. Even till today it never worked. I mean, it was built in such a way that it would never work. And second time when I was sent to prison, I was not even taken to the prison hospital. But they said that they were taking to a private hospital, to the Supreme Court they said. Such kind of. And when after 9 months, when I was taken to the government medical college hospital, 16 armed guards with AK-47s, they used to enter along with me into the room where the doctor was to treat me. And with the pointed gun against my head and the doctor has to check me. I mean, I didn't understand. I mean, I didn't even read this kind of a story which happened to me. And then all the doctors, others were taken away from that. I mean, it's a general OPD where all the general people should be treated, and it's vacated. You know, like the entire wing is vacated to take me to the hospital. The doctor is so terrorized that his hand shakes when he takes this stethoscope, and that kind of situation. And after that, the intelligence officer comes and takes that you have to write only this much. But very interestingly, again you can see Nagpur, it is Nagpur, despite the headquarters of RSS, there is a Dalit movement also. First doctor, a Dalit doctor, protested this. He shouted at the officers, intelligence officers in front of me, and not a gun in the sight, I will not check him. He shouted. And then, by then, already 10 doctors examined. He referred to it, he said that every report is wrong. I want everything to be specially done again. I will not. He is not known to me, he is not known to anyone. But he took such a daring step. And then this intelligence officer said that no, DAG is looking after this case. Who is DAG? He said that. I will not. Even the Home Minister comes, I will not accept this. Every test has to be done again, he said. And then I will supervise every test. Everything has to be repeated. And you see, first 1 month they took me. What was there in the medical reports, and the next 1 month what was there. The entire thing is completely changing, because now this doctor on his own is checking everything. And then one after the other, all the health problems that I got accumulated over 9 months came out. And that report went to the High Court, the Chief Justice, based on which he immediately asked that within 24 hours he should be admitted in the house. And you see, like several times, 29 times I was taken to the medical college after the lower court order, and after that High Court entered into the. Every time, you know, like between the court, hospital, and the jail, my life was entangled into the three institutions of highly oppressive institutions using their mighty force. But in fact, you know, like because of the campaign outside and the voices, even I got this kind of attention. But what's happening to thousands of Adivasi prisoners all over the different states? We can't even hear of what's happening in Chhattisgarh prisons or Jharkhand prisons. Even in Maharashtra, for each Adivasi prison also there is a lawyer. Because of the civil rights movement in Maharashtra, that this was possible history, they are looked after. But there is not even a lawyer there in other states. What I felt was that, there is a long story, if we can say that every day was an eventful day because of the protests of the prisoners in my support. Just to see a few things. If I write one sentence in Telugu, they will object. How do they object? I was in my cell, I could write whatever I wanted to. But every now and then intelligence team will come and raid my cell. And if there is anything written in Telugu or English, they'll take away that. Even English. But English papers they will return if they feel that there is nothing harmful they find according to them. But Telugu, if I write a line also they are. And particularly whenever I wrote letters to VV, I wrote several letters. They never reached. I think 2 letters reached. And whenever he wrote, I reached after 30 days. I also got only 2 letters from him. I don't know how many letters he wrote. We never met so far to discuss the thing. Particularly, if I write a letter, every day one intelligence officer will come with that letter and ask me to read it out. The next day another officer will come with the same letter. It is a big harassment if I write a letter. I did not write him in Telugu. I wrote him in English only. But even then, and to my wife or my child or my mother to write a letter, I have to write only in English. Of course, there's no problem if I write to my daughter in English. But my wife wants in Telugu, they will never allow. They said okay. But particularly if I write a letter to VV for the next 1 month, every day I will have to confront with an intelligence officer. And finally, that will not reach. During such a situation, when I faced with such a situation, I thought that I should translate Ngugi was young, those words. Incidentally, Vasanta brought a copy of Ngugi's 2 volumes of his biography. And the last time before my arrest when I visited US, on the invitation of Black Panthers movement leaders who were Black Panthers in the 70s, and they invited me to the university. There are some of them were professors. They invited me for some lectures there. Ngugi could not come to meet me and I could not go to meet him. It's like the other side of the US. He was there. And he signed and sent a copy to me through a friend who was coming from San Francisco to Atlanta. And I brought, and my Vasanta brought a copy to me to jail. That is another long story. To get a book inside the jail was again a long struggle. But this copy came, and then I nurtured a desire that I should translate this. And particularly in a context that I am not allowed, and every now and then my cell is raided by the intelligence officers in the middle of the night. Like my house was raided before my 3 months before my arrest. Even constantly every week there was a raid on my cell by the intelligence. So in such circumstances I decided to translate, and then for about 15 years I did not write anything in Telugu. But I wanted to write in Telugu, that book, because the struggle of Ngugi in that book for education, to get education, that struggle was a kind of a magnificent struggle. All that struggle that was described was one parallel struggle happening in the hills against the British and the ruling classes who allied with the British. That is Mau Mau armed rebellion, where his elder brother was also one of the leaders. Outside that area of the struggle, in the cities, another great struggle, parallel struggle was going on for these Adivasi boys. They were Adivasi, Ngugi and all Africans for education. Education to go to school was a big struggle. That struggle, the two parallel struggles were described in a wonderful manner, and I identified myself for my own education, the struggle I had in my childhood. I thought that everybody should read this book, and then the only thing that I can do is to translate it in Telugu, where the circumstances in Telugu-speaking land is very similar, so you could, people can read. I wanted to translate. Now the circumstances is that, I can't keep a line in Telugu there. So, but with great enthusiasm, I started. With the pain, I could not sit and all that, but with that I started. Every page I finished translating, and that page will be carried away from my cell immediately and kept in different cells hidden. That was the arrangement. In the under cell, who are they? Adivasis, Dalits, or the Muslim terrorists. All are in my favor. All are ready to help. So each page will be carried away and hidden in different cells, because the raid will happen in my cell and not other cells. So after 2-3 pages are translated, and somebody among anyone out of 29 people in different cells of the undercell, whoever gets the opportunity to go to high court attendance, he will carry that page or 3 pages, keeping that in their underwear. You are not allowed to carry out anything from the prison. And they will go and give it to their lawyer, and their lawyer either will post it to some address or pass it on to my lawyer. This was the arrangement. And for the next 3 months I translated, and every page safely reached outside by all these prisoners. And when the prisoners, no prisoner was getting an opportunity to go and take this, the jail guard will carry the papers outside secretly. That's how each page came out of the jail. I will not take much time. There are many stories to tell about this. And of course, so far in the campaign for my release and defense, there are many stories which are about my suffering. And it looks like a very tragic this thing. But the whole story is not a very such a sad story, because the kind of people I had the opportunity to spend with, though so many restrictions were there, not even allowed to speak, standing orders were there that I was not allowed to speak with next person. Even then, I had such a eventful life in the I forgot my, the diseases, the problems I faced with the suffering and the pain. I lived with them, and eventful days we had, and also a number of struggles we had within the prison. And finally, one last thing I would just tell you in a few days, this thing. Every prisoner, by the second time I was sent back to the prisoner, decided that we will not attend the video conference. That became a kind of a civil war within the prison. I mean, every prisoner refusing to attend the video conference pushed the courts in Maharashtra into crisis, the government into crisis, the jail into crisis, the intelligence into crisis. Such was the situation when they decided that if Saibaba is taken to the court, Saibaba will not raise this issue, so others will forget, and then this will be. That's how they produced me the second phase, last phase in March, only 1 month. All the witnesses in my case were completed, because the Supreme Court ordered that the main witnesses should be completed within the month, from March 4th to April 4th. And initially the government said that he cannot be taken because there is security problems. He cannot be produced before the court. And the Supreme Court, that's why they said that you take him out of the jail and keep him in a stay at a guest house. They said, no, we can't keep, there are security problems, we cannot keep him. The only reason which was not stated publicly by the government as a central government or state government, not even declared or informed the Supreme Court was that is because of that struggle. This is that we will not attend, and I refuse to attend, and all others are refused to attending the court through video conference. Then they started taking me straight away without missing on a single day. Every court date I was taken directly because of that. Not only that, all Adivasi boys started taking them to the court, and they did not state why they were refusing for years to take them into the court. Now why they are taking, it was not stated, but they started taking everyone to the court. So this is in short, so many things are there, but of course we'll have an opportunity sometime to talk about all this.
And what they told me, how they suffered, and hearing with Saibaba, I feel it is only 1% during the period of a king, and this is our democracy. Are we living in a democracy or a fascist government? That we have to decide.
But when he has come out without any condition for his bail from Supreme Court, he went to his college, the Ramlal College, the Delhi University Constitute College, and gave a letter to the principal that he will join the duty. And it's normal that he should be joined for that. And the governing council met. Duta was fighting for him, the defense committee was fighting for him. You know, Professor Gopal is the chairman of the defense committee, in which Arundhati Rai, Anand Tumde, and many other eminent people are there in the defense committee. The defense committee, Duta, Delhi University Teachers Association, Nanita Narayan, all these people are fighting with him. And on the day then governing council met to decide about his joining, 8 outsiders, none of them was a student. They came out with the placards that Saibaba is a Maoist and he should not be joined. And you know, they raided on these people who went there. And of course, since he was their colleague, the teachers were offering tea to Saibaba. And they have pounced upon these people, and the tea had fallen on his body and his skin was burnt. And these 8 outsiders, goons, ruffians, entered into the governing council meeting and gave a letter that he should not be joined. This is kind of, he was telling that the Mau movement in the forest and the struggle of the Adivasis, and that is outside for the education. The same thing is happening today. You can see the green hunt operation in the forest, the east and central India, and the struggle of the Dalit and Adivasi Muslim students in the universities. The same green hunt operation at the superstructure level and at the ground level. So these 8 outsiders could influence the governing council of that college, and they sent a letter to him that unless we call, you should not come to college, it will become a law and order problem. A teacher going to his college to teach his students will become a law and order problem today. These are the conditions we are living. And I think the second phase of struggle should be to see that Saibaba is reinstated. And I think those who have supported him all these days, these 2 years, will support him to see that he joined in his college and can teach. With these words I can ask, can give 10 more words? 10 or 15 minutes till 7:30 maximum. Everybody can ask questions.
In fact, I just want to say one thing. I actually wanted to separately meet people to thank all the people who raised their voices and stood by me while I was being in prison. Maybe some other day I will formally wanted to meet and thank everyone, but I may not be able to meet all of you again. So I wanted to thank everyone. supporting me and raising voice for my release was not actually raising voice against my, for my release. It is for, I think, all the political prisoners. I felt that the voices that raised across the country and the outside for my release was not for me, it was for all the political prisoners. I was not actually, I never been an individual. My name is only a name, but I am one among the people who are now behind the bars. And then actually, I felt also the content of the campaign for my release was like the campaign for all, for the release of all the political prisoners. And I mean, I'm not individually actually thanking all of you. It is part of all of us to work and work for the release of all the political prisoners. Particularly, you can see that, you know, today the number of Adivasis and Dalits who are behind the for political reasons. These people are not for any personal reasons. They were arrested for political, for their political beliefs or political acts. They were arrested and kept behind the bars. And actually, if I can be released with a campaign like this, why can't we release every single political prisoner with a campaign being stepped up? It is true, and the only way I could understand is that even the courts are responding if the voices are there. If the voices are not raised, the courts also don't respond. So today, my release should actually give a way for all of us to raise our voices in a consolidated way to release all the political prisoners. So in fact, I felt that the campaign already was for every political prisoner, not only for me. And now all of us should raise our voices across the country that to raise every political prisoner.
One thing that really, I mean, you would have noticed, I mean, throughout during your conversation, you were trying to make light of some of the experiences that you went through. I think that is one coping mechanism that you had. But one interesting thing is that very few people laughed at your jokes because none of us really feel that anything that you went through was funny or, and you know, we are with you throughout. What I wanted to say was that when you talk about academia and fascism, I was recently back at our alma mater 2 days ago, and getting in was like getting into a maximum security prison. It had become like that. What happens when our educational institutions does not allow people to, you know, move freely in and out of the institution, talk freely? It's one of the worst situations. Do you see any, I mean, I do see that, you know, people have begun to, I mean, even the middle class who are not familiar with, you know, the various issues that are happening in the villages or in the, you know, tribal areas and all that, they've begun to slowly begin to see, you know, I mean, the real truth of what is happening. Maybe on one side it is my own sort of optimism, but do you feel that? Do you feel that there is a change in attitude and perceptions of the common people about what is actually happening in India, that it is not as shining as it is supposed to be? Or the shining is in some other way, it's shining in some other way?
Finally, on the Supreme Court order, the only thing I had to state to the press was that I moved out from a small prison to a larger prison, and all the university campuses become like prison houses now. I mean, we come to hear about a dozen universities, names of a dozen universities, how these campuses are now turned into concentration camps or prison houses. But actually, if you see in the entire country, every university is like that. The moment you concentrate and see a particular university, then you can understand that the university is, you know, like I wanted to see like many people, even VB also just said that there is a fascistic tendency today that we are confronting. But I go a step forward and see that fascism has already set in. If you see, I mean, what is the indication that we are already living in a fascist, under a fascist state, under fascism? I mean, you know the number of intellectuals, writers, and rationalists that were killed and targeted in the last few, I mean, the 2 years I was there in the prison. I was reading all this new in the news. Apart from that, the greatest indication to see whether you are already under fascism. I mean, fascism is not only the state, but fascism enters into the civil society. Then only it is fascism. The civil society, in the sense that now you have RSS controlled social elements which are controlling the society outside the government as part of the state also. That is where you are fascism. The best indicator that you will understand is that when the fascism sets in, there is a genocide. Genocide and fascism go together. You have a genocide happening on Adivasis and Muslims, particularly Adivasis. The Operation Green Hand is a project of genocide. You see, like under Nazis, there is a genocide of Jews. Fascism always comes along with the genocide. Even before the modern fascism started in 1930s in Europe, you can see genocides happening and the fascism of different varieties happening throughout the colonial period. The colonial rule in different continents established genocides of the Adivasis. Without genocide, in nowhere colonial rule consolidated. Today, we have here a fascism unleashed in the entire society, and a genocide parallel is going on. And this is the biggest indicator. I mean, don't wait and see there is a fascism of the European type exactly in those terms it will happen. This happens here in a different way, in different forms and shape, but the clear indications that you see is that the voices, younger voices that are coming out of the universities now indicate that they are responding to this fascism. That's precisely why the universities are targeted by the state today, that the young intellectuals, the students are responding to the fascism in their own way, in their own understanding. And along with that, you can see everywhere there is a kind of, every university where there is a kind of an attack, you can see that the students there are trying to identify with the larger people and their consciousness to raise against fascism. So this is the times of, actually where you can also see positive thing, and you can also see within that positive thing that the things that are shaping us, the fascist. I would say that even if it was not BJP and NDA who is ruling today, even if it was Congress who voted power back to, the same thing would have happened. It was irrespective of the party. And the same RSS would have acted in the same way. Congress would have been ruling with and helping the same RSS. It was not because of Modi or BJP or NDA, but it is the entire ruling class in the same block you see, whether it is NDA or UPA, whichever, the same fascism would have been unleashed and the same genocide would have been continued. The genocides, in fact, started during UPA period itself. And so, but we have a great opportunity today, unlike what happened in Europe. The workers were also organized into a fascist party. All the sections, poorer sections were organized by the fascist Nazi party. Today we are not in such a condition. We have people's movements of a wide variety. I mean, to use the phrase of Arundhati Roy, there is a rainbow of people's movements in this country. And there is a possibility that for all of us, there's a great opportunity. All the campuses can unite now. All the students, in fact, there is a victory. Rohit Vemula, in fact, created a situation for all of us by sacrificing his life, that we all are woken into kind of this, it's a kind of a big explosion where we all understood what we should do. He did this, and that's why it's not, it's not a suicide, it is of course a murder, but even that, this kind of a sacrifice of his life has given him a great opportunity to understand what's happening around us, in fact. And he has explored the situation to make us hear and see the situation. So there is a great opportunity for us all, the fascist this thing, and the genocide on the other hand going on. We can see this situation and we have ample opportunity to react and actually do something to stop this fascism and reverse these fascist tendencies. Still we have opportunities. Unlike in 1930s, there was no opportunity for the progressives and the workers and others in Europe to stop the fascism, but we still have this opportunity. And I hope that we can all be successful to counter this and stop this at this stage and reverse this fascist onslaught.
No, Saibaba is from Central University, and also then he flew now the University of English and Foreign Language. And both of those two universities have become now the concentrated camps. And tomorrow he will be visiting his earlier institution, the Central University. Of course, you know the gates are closed. And Rohit Vemula's platform is being eradicated. You know, the officer was telling that for only technical reasons that the concerned officer is on leave. That's why it could not be erased, but it will be erased. And Virasam will be removed. And that place, Saibaba will be visiting tomorrow, his own institution. And he flew his another institution which has also become a concentrated camp. And I think a police officer is the vice chancellor of that university. Of course, both, either Appara or, but her name? Sunayana. These are the police officers, as I used to say about P.V. Narsarao, that he is an intellectual police. And of course, these two people are not intellectuals also. So this is the situation. Tomorrow we will be visiting them. Thank you very much for the opportunity you have given.